I'm not gonna let that property manager rent the units for me or do it on my own. I'm gonna hire a local agent that knows the area, knows the process about bringing good tenants on board. And once that agent brings me tenants on board, I'm gonna look at the application very carefully. Hey guys, Enis here with Whiteacre Properties. I'm in Roxbury today, and today we're not going to talk about fix and flip. We're not going to talk about ground up new construction. We're going to talk about something small and simple like rental properties, right? I think I've done a couple of videos on rental properties, but we had a situation with one of our tenants here, and now that the tenant is out, I wanted to share with you guys what we learned from it, what really happened, because I think you're going to benefit from it. So a little backstory on where I'm standing. It's 17 Mayo Street in Roxbury. It's a 3-family property that we bought back in 2017, and it was a full gut rehab. It took us, I think, close to 10 months to just do this whole project. A lot of work, a lot of stress during those times, but we got 3 really nice apartments, and we decided to keep this property because we got into real estate investing for the cash flow side of the business, right? The tenants are paying our mortgage, and maybe one day we can live free from this income, right? So that was the whole idea. However, to get there, we had to fix up this property, make sure we rent it out, pay the mortgage and all that stuff. We spent so much time and effort fixing this property that when it came time to renting it, we kind of rushed with it. And we hired a property manager that wasn't a good property manager, I'll say that. We obviously not going to name names here, but I wasn't happy with that property manager at all, and that was completely my fault. I hired somebody quickly without vetting them, without checking on their background, and the only criteria for me hiring that person is that he was also working for a local investor, and this investor had tons of property. So I said, hey, if it works for him, this person is going to do a great job for me. Wrong. That didn't work. That was one lesson learned there. Be very careful who you bring in as a team member, especially to manage your property. You know, this was my baby. I mean, this was our first big property that we wanted to own, so I needed somebody good. Now that property manager started renting this unit, and when he brought us applications or applicants to consider, we said, hey, you know better. If you think it's a good tenant, go for it. Second mistake, and that's a big one because right now we do things completely different, and we'll go into exactly how we handle the screening process of a tenant. But back then we relied on this property manager to actually accept the tenant without us doing any of the vetting or looking at the application. We were focused on the money coming in. We said, hey, we just need a tenant right now. We spent so much time fixing the property, we spent so much money, we just need somebody to move in. And that's just not the way to do it. Let's move forward. That tenant moved in. I think within probably 3, 4, or 6 months, we started seeing signs and hearing from the other tenants. They were complaining. So we are actually on unit 2, and the other 2 floors, they were saying, hey, there's trash outside that's not been taken out to the curb. They're making, there's parties here, it's just a lot of noise. And so these were signs of the tenant actually not being good. And they weren't responding to us much. I think back then we let go. And if we acted faster and maybe, not renew the lease at that point, we would have been better off. But we said, you know what, we need the money. We need a good tenant, or at least we need a tenant in the property. So that's what happened. Next thing though was, and this was again our mistake number 3, is the fact that we didn't do inspections here. We just moved somebody in, we collected the rent, and here the rent was Section 8, so it was coming from the government directly to us, and we didn't do any inspections. We didn't know what was going on inside our unit. Again, we put so much sweat equity, so much blood and tears into this building that we were kind of exhausted and moving to the next one, but that was a really big mistake on our end. We should have come here periodically, maybe every 3 months, maybe not every month, but every 3 months, and check on the status of the unit. So what happened is that I think a year into the tenant being here, they called us saying that we have problems with kitchen cabinets and one of the walls here right behind me. And we were like, what is that? This was actually a brand new unit, so what happened? And what happened is that the upper unit had one of their kitchens leaked, and it leaked for months. So the person here didn't call us right away when they saw a stain in the wall. They said, hey, it's fine, they let it, I think the leaking took place for like 3 months. So if you guys don't know, if that happens, now the whole drywall gets damaged, the whole cabinet gets damaged. And leaking water, it's not good, because even unit 1 had problems now because water was going down. We got here because at the end she wanted us to come and replace the cabinets, and when we took the cabinets down, we saw that the whole back wall was had black mold, right? Because the water was sitting behind the cabinets. So black mold is a problem. You cannot stay in the unit if there is black mold because it's not healthy for you. And she had 2 little kids. Actually, she had 3 little kids. So what happens? In that case, as a landlord, the right thing to do is to get these tenants and find them another unit, or find them a hotel to actually move in. And we did that. I think it was Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving. And we told her, hey, look, unfortunately, you're not going to be celebrating at home. We have to move you to a hotel. And we found a good hotel for them to feel accommodated. And we moved them in. So that was an expense that we as landlord had to take on. And then we had to rush here and bring contractors right away and fix this place. Again, that lesson 3 is really important, because if we had done those monthly or quarterly checkups on this unit, we would have realized the problems already, and we would have acted much sooner before it became this huge mold issue and problem. And what we did next, after the person came in with the family, I think we gave them about 30 days, and when the lease expired, we said, hey, look, we had a good run, but we're not renewing the lease. Unfortunately, we're giving you 30 days notice for you to vacate. And she said, I'm not going anywhere. I like it here. I'm staying here. And pretty much she just wanted to fight us on that process. She didn't want to vacate. So we ended up hiring an eviction attorney. We said, hey, the tenant doesn't want to move. We have to file for eviction. And when we did that, the tenant also went and hired a pro bono attorney, somebody that was going to school in one of the Ivy League universities in Boston. I was happy to help this family with little children fight a landlord. So that attorney was doing the work for free for them. Our attorney was charging an arm and a leg on our end, so we wouldn't win that fight. We knew that early on because it started costing a lot of money, and they were saying that the mold had caused issues to the children and to the family and distress and all that. So we wouldn't win that. And what happens next also is the eviction moratorium. Right in the city of Boston, you couldn't evict anybody because I think this was back in March or April last year, COVID just hit. So you couldn't really relocate people, especially someone with little children. So we said, you know what, forget it. Let's forget the eviction for now. Keep this tenant in the property. We're getting paid from Section 8 portion of the rent, so at least we could pay the mortgage. And then it came to a point where, again, tenants were complaining, the other tenants were complaining, and we started a dialogue, I think late last year, with a tenant again. And we said, hey, what if we do cash for keys? And for you guys, if you don't know what cash for keys means, is that I'll pay you cash for you to give me my keys back, right? The landlord wants you in a friendly way out of the building, right? I'm not gonna file eviction, you just kind of go on your own, I'll pay you X amount of dollars and you just give me the keys back. Finally, we went back and forth. They wanted a lot of money. I think they wanted $20,000 to leave. We offered $5,000, somehow ended up with $10,000 cash for keys. So I'll stop there for a second. $10,000 to get the apartment back, that we did everything possible as a landlord to keep, in good shape and accommodate the tenant, but because we missed on the other parts, because we brought in not the best tenant, because we didn't do our inspections and all that, we missed out, and now we had to pay this money. But the good thing is that we got our apartment back. Looks good. We'll show you guys some photos of the current condition, and we can actually bring in a good tenant. All right, let's talk about lessons learned, because this is the most important part to me, and I hope you guys find golden nuggets here and it's beneficial to you. I hope there is value in this. So what I learned out of it, one, have a good property manager. We do a lot of fix and flip. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do day to day in our business. Property manager, it's not something that we do on a daily basis. So we wanted to outsource that. However, like I said, we need to, back then we didn't do a good job bringing a good property manager on board. Right now it's a different process. If I have to hire someone, I'm going to check with, I'm going to ask for references. I want to know everything about them, right? They're a team member. It's like hiring an employee. I want to know everything. I'll go on social media and look at their work or their friends, or I'm going to talk to other property owners that they are managing property for. So I'll do all that work up front. I'm not going to be happy with just, word of mouth maybe, or just a quick referral. So that's one thing. Two, I'm not going to let that property manager rent the units for me or do it on my own. I'm going to hire a local agent that knows the area, knows the process about bringing good tenants on board. And once that agent brings me tenants on board, I'm going to look at the application very carefully. And currently, let's say for this unit, things that I care about on the applicants is how much money they make on a monthly basis. And I would like for them to make 3 times the rental, the monthly rental income, right? Ideally, maybe 2.5 can also be fine, but in the city of Boston, I'm looking for 3 times the rent. I'm looking for prior evictions. So we're gonna do a background check on them to see if do they have any evictions on file. Have they ever been evicted by somebody else? Because obviously their past history is gonna show how they're gonna behave with me as a landlord. Number 3, I'm gonna call their landlord, not only the current landlord, not only the last person that they stayed with, but also the prior one. Because sometimes with the current landlord, they are so happy to just give a good referral to get rid of them, right? Just to get their unit back, that they might be like, hey, I want to pass the bucket over to this other guy. But so go back to landlords and check with that person. The other thing we're gonna do is look at their credit score. So credit score obviously tells a lot about someone's habits with money. You know, are they paying their bills, right? If they're not paying their bills, if they haven't paid their car bill or whatever, that's a sign that maybe they're gonna be late with our rent here. So I check a credit score, minimum 600 plus, right? And then I'll go on Google. I'll Google their name and see what comes up. And then I'll go on social media and look at their pictures and see who are they? You know, are they throwing parties every weekend at their place? Or, you know, I just want to see what they're doing. So those are things that we do now. So compare that to what I did early in 2018, where I just pretty much signed on the lease without doing anything and trusted my property manager with the decision. So big difference. And you know, by taking these steps, I'm hoping, look, it's never going to be a guarantee that the tenant is going to be great, but by taking these few steps, I am going to try to prevent someone that's not going to be good to this building or to the other tenants or to me as a landlord, or not pay our rent on time, right? Last 2 points I want to make, guys. If you are in a position where you need to evict someone, try to hire an attorney to do that. The state of Massachusetts is not the most friendly state when it comes to landlord. They usually side with the tenant a lot more and give the tenant a lot more opportunity to stay in the unit or delay their eviction. So if you have to evict, there's a lot of forms. You gotta meet certain dates. You gotta file certain papers that as a typical landlord, you're just gonna have a hard time with that and you're not gonna do it right. And that's gonna just put you in a bad spot evicting someone quickly, right? So hire an attorney that knows what they're doing, especially with evictions. And the final thought that's also extremely important is that if you own rental property, you gotta have money in reserves, right? If we didn't have money in reserves for this building, and honestly, to be completely open book, we didn't have a lot of money, but we were running a real estate business that we were able to tap into to get some funds to get this to the finish line. But if you're a small landlord, keep money in reserves because you're gonna need that money to pay your mortgage if your tenant is not paying you, right? The bank doesn't care if this tenant is not paying. And pretty much having the money in reserves and put aside is gonna allow you to get over the situation and be able to hire the next tenant. And hopefully the tenant is good and you can own the property for a long time and one day maybe own it free and clear, right? So that's the goal. Sometimes real estate investing is not passive. You need to know what you're doing and just go back, listen to all the points that I just made. You know, be careful with how you handle property managers, tenants, how you screen them, and how you evict them. And don't forget to keep money in reserves. All right, guys, hope you find this helpful. If you do, share, comment, subscribe. We have a meetup coming up on June 12th. If you guys want to know more about that, we'll put some comments right below here. But yeah, see you guys on the next one. Thank you.